Do you wait for everything to be perfect and lined up straight before you make a choice? How hard are you trying to get everything in your life right? What if jumping in and getting messy is one of the ways to find out what works for you? Discover how being willing to mess up can create the phenomenal life you truly desire. Get ready to quit judging and start embracing all of your messy adventures. Now, here's your host, self-declared messy living expert, Petrina Fava.
Hello and welcome to Messy Adventures in Living on Inspire Choices Network.
Fava. Hi, I'm Petrina Fava, and you're listening to Messy Adventures in Living. Okay, so, hi. Sorry, just needed a second there. So, welcome to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm Petrina Fava, your host. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming to play. So here on Messy Adventures in Living, you get invited to something different, choice and possibility, and jumping in and getting messy with your life instead of waiting for everything to be perfect and lined up straight before you choose anything, which often ends up in you not really choosing anything or just making these little tiny safe choices. So on Messy Adventures in Living, we talk about all kinds of things, and you get invited to push past your comfort zone and take a step and choose, and then see what that creates, and then choose again and see what that creates. So what are we talking about today? Okay, so today we're talking about, the title of our show is How to Set Unreasonable Goals. Okay, so how to set unreasonable goals. So it's January of 2017, still have so much swirling around out there about setting goals and setting resolutions and making changes by setting goals and getting down and dirty and, working hard at achieving your goals. So I saw a post floating around on social media about that said something like, are you the kind of person who gets really sets goals with emotion and then you lose steam? Why don't you sit down and set some reasonable goals? So that was kind of what got me wanting to talk about this. So are you the kind of person who gets super excited about an idea and then as soon as you start putting it into motion, gets dragged down by all the hows and whens and wheres? Maybe you need to sit down and think about setting some reasonable goals instead of acting on emotion. Be reasonable. Lower your standards a little and set realistic goals. Stop being such a dreamer and get real. Or not. When did you buy that baloney? And who did you buy it from? And what has the price of that baloney been in your life? What has the price been of buying the bullshit of stop being a dreamer and set realistic goals? What has the price been? You're not just an unrealistic dreamer. You know you have the ability to create great things. So if you didn't buy the lies of reasonable goals, or if you didn't buy the lie of reasonable at all, how much magic could you create? So let's dream big and start getting unreasonable. Okay, so what is this for you? What comes up for you around this topic? I want to know. Let me know. What is it? What is it that's bubbling up in your universe? Where did you hear about being reasonable or setting a reasonable goal? Were you told? Did you see something on television or hear something on the radio or learn something in school about setting goals and setting reasonable goals, realistic goals? Were you told you were too much of a dreamer, that you think too big? Your goals are too big, too broad, too vague. You need to narrow things down. You need to focus. You need to set some limits in order to achieve anything. So, and what has that created? Has that allowed you to create? How much has that allowed you to create? Has it allowed you to create the phenomenal things that you know are possible? Or has it allowed you to create on a small scale? So I'm not here going to be talking about how wrong it is to set reasonable goals today, because that's not it at all. It's just what I'd like to look at over the next hour is where we've bought the lie of being reasonable. What does that even mean? What is reasonable? And what are you interested in creating for yourself in your life, and what are you interested in creating in the world? Are you interested in changing the world? Are you interested in creating a change? Are you interested in creating something amazing on this planet that you know is possible? And if you are you going to get there by setting reasonable goals? Or is there another way? And what is that way? Okay, so let's look at reasonable. What does it mean? What does reasonable mean to you? Or what have you defined it as? Or what did you learn about being reasonable? So here's what I found when I went to look at the etymology of this word, reasonable. Etymology is the study of the origin of words. So, reasonable, according to Etymology Online Dictionary, is defined as excessive. No, I'm sorry. Unreasonable is defined as right here. Listen to this. It's really good. Excessive, going beyond what is sensible or realistic. Unreasonable is excessive, going beyond what is sensible or unrealistic. Yes, please. I will have that. How about you? I will have that. Going beyond what is sensible or realistic. Yeah. I'm not interested in sensible and realistic. How about you? I know that being sensible and realistic is not going to create what I know is possible. It's only going to create more of the same of what I have. So the thing is, and reasonable, the original meaning of the word reasonable is actually having sound judgment. Having sound judgment. So there it is, right there. Reasonable is all about judgment. Reasonable is all about judgment. And unreasonable is all about going beyond. So what would you rather have? What would you rather be? Reasonable or unreasonable? It's okay if you're interested in reasonable and you want to stay and you want to keep doing what you're doing. It's cool. It's just a choice. If there's something in your life that you would love to have that you've been told is unrealistic, would you be willing to get rid of all of your judgments, all of your beliefs, all of the bullshit that you bought about what's reasonable and what's unreasonable in this world? Because actually, who decides what's reasonable? Where does this come from? Who sets the bar for what's reasonable and what's unreasonable, right? Is there a truth in being reasonable? Like, where do you decide what reasonable is? So, it is reasonable actually something that people just agree on, right? Like, so is it just consensus? Like, is it just what a whole bunch of people agree on? Is that reasonable? So, like, it is reasonable just what a whole bunch of people have decided, a definition a whole bunch of people have come to, a conclusion a whole bunch of, like, is it something that most people would agree on? Is that what reasonable is? And if it is, then are you just going along? Are you just consenting to what everyone else has decided? So when I think about people who have created amazing things in this world, anytime I think that what something that I would like to create is unreasonable or too far-fetched or not possible, I often think of the Wright brothers, right? The Wright brothers who invented the airplane. So talk about totally unreasonable. People thought these guys were nuts. How could this thing that weighed tons, a hunk of metal, fly? Like, you guys are crazy. And yet they knew. They knew that something else besides what had already been done was possible. And that's the other thing about reasonable, right? What's it based on? It's based on the past. It's based on what's been created already. It's based on information that we already have, evidence of what we've already seen. Reasonable is not about possibility. It's just about judgment based on the past, based on what we've seen happen before. So how do we get around this? How do we create unreasonable goals? So first, I think the first thing we really need to look at is where have you bought the lies of unreasonable? Who have you bought them from? What have you decided in your life is unreasonable? What goals do you have that are unreasonable? What goals have you had that you have been told are unreasonable? So all of those goals, all of those targets, all of those dreams, all of your dreams that you've decided are unreasonable, that you're not even asking for because you've already decided are unreasonable. Would you like to destroy and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyond. Okay, so that thing I just said is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you've never heard of it before, it is a set of words that has an explanation to it. It comes from a modality called Access Consciousness, and you can find more information about the Clearing Statement at theclearingstatement.com. All I'm going to say about it now is that it gets at the energy when you talk about something and a whole bunch of energy comes up around a topic, all the lies come bubbling to the surface, all the lies that you bought. The Clearing Statement can kind of just cut at it and get rid of all of where it's being held in place and allow you some space to see other possibilities. Okay, so theclearingstatement.com. You don't have to understand it in order for it to work. So let's do it again. Everything you've decided is unreasonable. Everywhere you bought the lie of unreasonable, will you destroy and create all that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So having sound judgment. Having sound judgment. Even that, is it even yours? Like how you having sound judgment based on what? Reasonable is all about what people agree on, what a general consensus is. So how can we look at setting unreasonable goals then? How do we approach that if we don't have a system? Okay, let's do this. Let's take a little bit of an early break. We are going to come back and talk about a little bit more about being unreasonable, setting unreasonable goals, knowing what you know about your dream, and going after it without being reasonable. So you're listening to Messy Adventures in Living on the Inspired Choices Network. We're talking about how to set unreasonable goals.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if you're far greater than you've ever given yourself credit for? What if it's time to know the gift and the contribution you are to the world and to like yourself a lot more? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. Asking questions opens doors to infinite possibilities. And it's not about finding the answer, it's about being the question. Always. What I'm inviting you to step into is something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Gandhi, Picasso, and Aristotle all knew to be true. What if no question is too big or too small? What if anything is possible for you? What if together we could create a kinder, gentler, happier world? Is now the time? Go to beingyouclass.com and sign up for a free video series. my gift to you. beingyouclass.com. What if you, truly being you, are the gift and change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
Hey, welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm your host, Petrina Fava. So today's topic is how to set unreasonable goals. So just before we went to break, we were looking at the word unreasonable, what we've defined unreasonable as versus reasonable. What comes up for you around being reasonable. When were you told to be reasonable? Like, when did you decide that your goals, your dreams, what were unreasonable? And see, the thing is, for me, the word dreams has a little bit of weird energy on it, and some of it might stem from the fact that I was kind of told as a kid that I was a dreamer, and it was not in a good way. It was kind of like, oh, you're such a dreamer, and you have all these things that you want to do, but you just don't get down and do them. You know, you have all these things that you want to do, but you end up doing nothing. You're just a dreamer. So very much judged myself for this, was judged for it, was told it over and over and over again that I was just too much of a dreamer, and that I just didn't get down and get things done, and all I ever did was dream. So, you need to sit down, you need to set some goals, you need to have a plan, and that never worked for me. It just never worked. And so, can you relate? Does this go on for you too? Like, are you a dreamer, and are you having some trouble getting your dreams to show up, and are you having some trouble having your dreams show up? And is it actually because you don't plan? Is it because you don't set goals and you don't have a strategy, or is it something else? Is it because you don't have a strategy, or is it something else? So let's look at this. Is it possible that you are the kind of person that can really perceive energy? Okay, can you perceive the energy of something? Here's what it is for me. I know something is possible. I get excited, right? This is something that I read a while ago. It's like, are you choosing your goals based on emotion? Like, do you get excited? Do you get inspired? Do you get like, oh my God, we can do this and this and this, and you get really happy and you get excited? And is there a judgment that you're doing this from emotion, and then that's why you don't create anything? So is it actually from emotion? Like, what does that mean? Is it actually from emotion, or are you perceiving the energy of what's possible? Are you so fast at perceiving the energy of the creation already? Like, are you already aware of what it's going to be like when it shows up, that you get super excited about this creation because you totally know it's possible, and you perceive what it can be, or you perceive what it is in the future, and then you get so excited about it, right? Is it that, or is it just emotion? Okay, so everywhere you've decided that your ability to perceive the energy of a creation and your total excitement about it because you know it's possible is you just being emotional, or whatever that word is, being a dreamer. Will you destroy and uncreate all of that lie? Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and punk, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. Okay, so then what happens? What is it? What happens after you perceive this amazing creation? How often do you find that it just kind of fizzes out and it doesn't show up? So if that's happening, like, what is it that's actually happening there? What's happening? So judgment. Let's look at judgment. So remember, actually, that we just said that when I looked up reasonable in etymology online, it actually says that reasonable is having sound judgment. So is judgment coming in? So you perceive the amazing energy of this creation that you know is possible, and then all of a sudden, boom, judgment. are you aware of something that's so beyond this reality, and then you try and fit it in this reality, and then the judgment of impossible comes in, and then you just stop. So if being unreasonable is going beyond, and then you're trying to fit it here in this reality, of course that's frustrating. Of course nothing gets created, because here you are, knowing what's possible, perceiving something that maybe somebody told you is impossible, but something that you know you can create. And you're there in that space. You're tapped into the energy. You're tapped into the energy of the creation. And then all of a sudden your focus shifts to this world. Your focus shifts to reality. And so you take your dream, you take what you know is possible. I really don't want to call it a dream, but you take that thing that you know is possible to create, that thing that's actually already starting to create itself. And then you go, here, I need to fit it into this structure of reality, this box. And it doesn't fit. But of course it doesn't fit. Because you know about something that's beyond. Just like the Wright brothers, right? They knew something was possible with flying. But there was nothing in this reality that could fit in. They had to work with, the laws of impossible, the energy of impossible. They could have never invented the airplane if they focused on trying to fit it into the box of what was reality at the time, because what was reality at the time was that flying was impossible, and that surely a hunk of metal could never get off the ground because no one had ever done it before. And when people looked around, what they saw were flying were small things, right? Birds, insects, not enormous hunks of metal. So everywhere you are taking the creations you know are possible, the creations that are even already beginning to create themselves as you have that energy of excitement, and everywhere you're taking those and destroying them by trying to fit them into this reality before they even have a chance, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So... okay, I'm just taking a quick peek in the chat room. So there's a question: what if I consciously set unreasonable goals as opposed to unconsciously? What if I consciously set unreasonable goals as opposed to unconsciously? So what is that? So everywhere you're separating conscious and unconscious when really it's all intertwined with each other, and it's all one creation, and you're all creating with conscious and unconscious. Everywhere you're separating that, would you like to destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So that's good too, because thank you, Eleanor, in the chat room. Like, how much separation are we doing with the unconscious, or unconscious is not really, can you ever really be unconscious? Everywhere you're separating the what you know energetically as possible and then fitting it into this reality, still see there's this separation. So everywhere we're separating the energy of possibility and this reality. Can we destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because when you start separating things, everything gets a heck of a lot harder to create, right? So what if this reality is not wrong? And what if, what you know is possible and the energy of creation is not right? So everywhere you're making this reality wrong and your ability to create outside of this reality right, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because see, what happens if you fight this reality, if you fight this reality, or if you resist the systems or the structures of this reality, then you can't use them to your advantage. So, how can you use what's already in place in this reality to your advantage? How can you use those structures and change them to fit what you know you can create? When it's without judgment. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, so what happens when you try to create something from judgment? What do you end up creating when you're creating something from judgment? Are you creating more of the same, right? So, sorry, I'm not exactly getting exactly what you're asking. Dreams and hope someone else will make them come true. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that on a previous show too, like hopes and dreams. Yeah, dreams. So where have you decided that your awareness of what is possible is just a dream? And where have you decided that that's your unconscious awareness of something? And where have you decided that you can't bring that into existence? What judgments do you have in place? And everything that is what you're just trying to create. All right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all nine shorts. But to be honest, what judgments do you have in place about creation and about setting goals? What judgments do you have in place about setting goals that are not allowing you to have what you know is possible show up, right? So yes, this show is about how to set unreasonable goals. And I'm also really aware of how much of my life I've spent resisting structure and resisting planning and resisting fitting things into this reality. And you know what? It's not really working for me. So what else is there? Like, what's in between? What else is there besides resisting structure and functioning fully and only from energetics and only from space? And that's not to say that it's not possible, because of course it is. And how can we use what's already set up in this reality, in this world, to have ease with creating what we know is possible? So, instead of structures, right, can we create systems? What system can you put in place that works for you? So the thing is, we so often go to look at others, right? We go to experts, we try and find information about how to set goals. What structure can I use to set goals? And what if you asked, what system would work for me? What system can I put in place here that will allow me to have what I know is possible? Will allow me to have what's real? And, how much of this idea that you resisting structure is actually just a roadblock that you're putting in front of yourself? Not that I would know anything about that one. So everywhere you've bought the lie that you don't like structure and that you don't like planning and that you don't like setting goals, everywhere you have locked that into place, everywhere you've bought your own lie, and everywhere you're using that to stop yourself from creating, well, you destroy, not create at all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Yeah, what system might work for me here? What system? The difference between a system and a structure is that a system is malleable, right? It's changeable. You can change a system. A structure is very rigid. There's not a lot of change that happens with structure. So I found a quote on the internet that says, setting goals. I looked up, how to set reasonable goals, because I wanted to see what points of view are in place around setting goals. And I found this: setting goals should be a process taken seriously with a detailed plan of action. Without having a structured plan to help you, it may be a very daunting task. With no solid road ahead to follow, it is easy to stray off course. Okay, so there's a lot of judgment in there, right? A detailed plan of action. And that without having a structured plan to help you, it's going to be daunting. And with no solid road ahead to follow, it's easy to stray off course. So many things there, like, where have you decided already that if you don't have a plan, it's going to be daunting? Like, have you decided that following the energy or picking up on energy and asking questions like is not going to create the result that you would like. Having a solid road ahead, solid is not changeable. See, the thing is, if you set goals, if you set a goal, then it's rigid and it's linear, and there's no room for it to change. And if there's no room for it to change, then it's a limitation. So maybe you have this amazing thing that you know is possible, and so you set yourself a goal to achieve it. It's still a limitation because there's always the possibility that it could be something greater. But it can't be if you're following a solid road and you're scared of straying off course. So would you be willing to stray off course on the way to creating what you know is possible? And what if that straying off course is actually the road to creating something even more amazing that you ever thought was possible? Right? So everywhere you decided you have to stay on course and follow the road to your dream, can you destroy and create all that? Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and puck, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, so we are going to take a break. Again, it's already time for break. So you're listening to Messy Adventures in Living. We're talking about how to set unreasonable goals today, right here on the Inspired Choices Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
Oh, welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. I'm your host, Petrina Fava. Today's topic is how to set unreasonable goals. I'm just laughing because I just saw a comment in the chat room that says, I don't know why I'm listening. I don't have any goals. I have no clue where I'm going, and I'm okay with that. And I'm laughing because I'm looking at the front entrance of my house where I have a quote on the wall that says, happiness. My life has no purpose, no direction, no aim, no meaning, and yet I'm happy. I can't figure it out. What am I doing right? So, where have we bought some lie that in order to be happy, you have to have purpose? So, again, I'm not making having a purpose wrong. I'm not making having goals wrong. None of that. But the thing is that when we buy these things as absolute truths, they start to become limitations. Do you have to have goals in life to be happy? Do you have to have a purpose in life to be happy? Do you have to have one dream in life to be happy, right? Like, how many times were you asked that question when you were a kid? Just like, what do you want out of your life? Like, what do you dream about? And if you were kind of like, I don't know, or you couldn't put words to it, or maybe you didn't have just one, you had many, because you know that everything is possible. So, everywhere you were made wrong for not having a dream, not having a focus, not having a goal. Well, he's trying to create all that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. And I think we have a caller. Is there a caller on the line? Hi. Hey, Eleanor. Thanks for calling in.
My pleasure. Getting back to the reasonable, unreasonable, conscious, and unconsciously asking, and in this case, goals, targets.
Right.
I grew up with the consciously asking for reasonable. So I now have awareness on how much limitation is on that and conclusion and how constricted it is, because it's kind of it sets like a limit as to how much I can receive.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's when I pose the question of what would it take me to be unconscious and unreasonable, because I was going with the opposite. Because what happens for me to be unconscious, then that takes all the judgments and limitations off my asking. But here's what happened. You just spoke about it, the straying off course.
Yeah.
When I start to stray off course, it touches off of, it kind of sets an insecurity, or that perfectionism, non-perfectionism sets in, or lack of it, that, it's not happening the way I want it is. That
right.
I don't, it's you get me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I get you.
What would it take to be free in that unreasonable?
Oh, yes.
So
what would it take to be free of, free of control? Is there an element of control there? Like, so, how much are we actually using this unwillingness to have the structures in place actually as a different way of controlling? Do you know what I mean? So, where did we buy the lie that if we don't have it all figured out ahead of time, if we don't know the plan, because that's what we're taught about goals, is like, you have to have a plan. You have to have it set out. If you have to know what you want, and you have to know what it takes to get there. And then you make a plan, and then that's how you get it. But it's like, for people like you and me, or, who, function differently. So like, I know I'm very aware of the energy of something. And so setting a linear path doesn't work, because I pick up when something is not energetically matching. Do you know what I mean? And so what if that's what people have defined as straying off course? Right? So like, if you were willing to tap into the energy of what it is you would like to create, and then follow, choose based on what matches, can you really ever get off course? Because it's not going to be linear. But if you start setting a road and making a plan, then that's linear. It doesn't allow you for perceiving the energy. It doesn't allow it to show up, like you just said, in a way that you didn't think it was going to show up. So much judgment. That's the thing.
I get it, because I'm in my head with the judgment.
Because you're in your head, you're like, we're using logic, right? I mean, logic, like, what's logic? Logic is a lot of based on the past. But, 1 + 1 = 2. It's linear. A lot of logic is based in judgment.
And everybody else's.
And everybody else's, right, which is what we were saying about what does reasonable even mean. Like, who decides what's reasonable? It's just a collection of opinions, and then we just decide, we get on board. Like, is it actually consensus? Right? Is reasonable actually just consensus? So, so what are the questions?
It's more for me in energetically asking the question and following the energy, regardless of whether it's linear or non-linear, which it's probably the latter. Right.
Right, like, and so is that what you mean when you were saying, like, unconscious? Is it that you are...
Yes.
Yeah, you're aware of what's possible energetically, right? Like you're like, oh, I know this is possible, and your creation has an energy. You're like, oh, it has this energy, and then you're trying to fit into this reality by making a plan, and it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier and that. And then what if you ask right? And then what if you ask questions and then see what matches the energy of what you know is possible or what you would like to create, and then choose based on that, and you can still have a system in place. Right? I mean, things require action. We still need to get up, and we need to do things to put things in place. But the cool thing is that we can ask questions. Who can I talk to? Where can I look?
Okay, can I ask you another question leading from that, Petrina?
Yeah.
Talking about the energy and following the energy and how much space and possibility is in all of that, and it's so much lighter, and it's just so much who I am. However, there are times where the energy is not telling me anything. There's something blocking. It's that, it's almost like that stuckness. And I get frustrated, and I'm like, where is this? And it seems like nothing's there there's no direction. And in those times I just say, okay, maybe it's time to take a break. And it seems like I'm on a roll, and I'm following the energy swirling, and things are clicking into phase. And then things start getting a little sticky. It's like things are not quite happening the way I would like them to happen. Very subtle, or they're not happening. So I'm like, okay, step back a little bit.
So what have you decided not happening what have you decided nothing is happening means? Like, what judgments do you have about nothing is happening?
Nothing's showing up in my creations. It's just kind of, I'm just continuously living life robotically. There's nothing of my creations or my goals showing up. I don't see evidence of it. And if it goes on for a while, for whatever time is, then I become disillusioned, and I'm not just stepping back, I'm stepping way back.
Yeah. So evidence, so that word is interesting that you said there's no evidence. So what happens, so do you know the expansiveness of I'm aware of the energy, and I know this is possible, and I'm asking questions, and I'm following the energy to see what matches, and I'm asking more questions and more questions, okay? So perceive that, the lightness of that. And then and then looking for evidence. What happens to your creation when you start looking for evidence? Does it expand?
No.
No? Does it shrink?
Yeah, it's like the grass going back down under the ground again.
Yeah, it just shrinks back in, right? It's like you're looking. You ever hear Dr. Dane here is the co-founder of Access. I heard him tell a story once about when you plant a seed, right? Mm-hmm. And so you plant a seed in the soil, and then you water it, and you put it beside the window, and then the next day you go there and you're like, what the hell? Nothing's happening, stupid seed. You're not growing. So then you come back the next day and you put more water. You're like, what's your problem? I gave you water and you have sunlight. You stupid. Nothing's happening. In the meantime, what's happening underneath the soil? Right? The seed is sprouting. It's growing. It's just not up at the top yet. Would you just relax? I'm coming. But in the meantime, you're projecting all of this stupid seed. Nothing's happening at your creation. So then what happens?
Yeah. What's happening? What if I'm just comparing to other people that seem to have achieved things faster, and that's not contributing to me? Because then I'm going into resentment, how the fuck is it happening so fast for him, and here's me asking all the right stuff, and it's taking forever.
Yeah, and we know that judgment just kills creations, right? It totally kills creations completely, and you can't change anything with judgment. So everywhere you're judging what you're creating because it's not showing up fast enough, or it's not showing up as fast as is possible, will you destroy and uncreate all that?
Yes.
Yeah. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, puck, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. I have a lot of this going on too, right? Very impatient, and I often because I know I can create at the speed of space. Like, I know I should be able to wave my hands and make something show up. You know, there's something in me that just knows that that's possible, and it's not happening on this planet right now. So then I get frustrated. So, you know, I think also you know, would you be willing to see that we need to work with this reality? Yeah. Right? And like, would you be willing to acknowledge that you can create at the speed of space?
Yes.
And you need to work with this reality as well.
Yes.
So, you know, what question could you ask? Like, what systems can I put in place? But it's not even that. It's like, how can I work? What can I use? How can I work with this reality to create this at the speed of space that I know I can?
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, even would you be willing for things to take a really long time?
Yes.
Oh. Awesome. Yes. And everything doesn't allow that way to sort of grade out.
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all that shows. But because then you end up resisting it, right? You resist the length of time that something is taking, and then you judge it, and then it just smothers your creation.
That's what's been happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so everywhere you're smothering your creations with the lies of time.
Ooh, I like, yes.
Everywhere you're smothering your creation with, you know, the judgment of this reality is way too slow, but you're not actually acknowledging that because you just think you're too slow when actually you're way faster.
Yeah, and a few other things. The universe doesn't like me.
Oh, the universe doesn't like me. That's a great way to create. That's hilarious. That's so funny. Oh my God. Everywhere you decided the universe just doesn't like you, will you destroy and uncreate that, please?
Absolutely, yes.
That's so funny. But see, we have all these sneaky little things like, oh, the universe doesn't like me. So your creations are like, really? The universe doesn't like us? Okay, I'll just get smaller.
Your wish is my command. Exactly.
Your point of view creates your reality.
And that's when the evidence starts showing up.
Right. So you're looking, that's great. Yeah. Your point of view creates your reality. So then you start looking for evidence that you suck.
Yeah.
And then of course
the universe doesn't like me.
And the universe, of course you're going to find it.
Yes. That's exactly what's happening.
And then it's just a circle of your point of view creates your reality, and you start looking for evidence, and then you find it, and then that creates more of the same point of view. So, yeah, interesting point of view. You have this point of view. Great tool. Interesting point of view.
Thank you so much, Petrina.
Oh, my goodness.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. That was great.
Pleasure. Always, always, always. Great show.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Bye.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, bye. So, I think we are going to take a quick break. That was awesome. You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living. We're talking about how to set unreasonable goals. Don't go anywhere. We will come right back with how you can set some unreasonable goals.
Do you wait until all the traffic lights are green before you get in your car? Of course you don't. Are you waiting until you have everything perfect to begin living? Most of us have learned not to take any steps until we have all the information to make the right choice. What if the opposite is true? What if it's choice that creates awareness? Are you willing to make lots of messy choices so you can begin to see the possibilities that you didn't think existed? Listen for Messy Adventures in Living radio show with self-declared messy living expert Petrina Fava every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, and 8 Pacific on the InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. How much more expansive would your life be if you were willing to get messy with your choices?
What if you really do change molecules by your interaction with them? What if the change you've been looking for is right before your eyes? What if the uncomfortableness that comes with difference could be fun? What if the closed-minded people of the world no longer determined our world? What if gratitude trumps judgment every time? What if your kindness healed the world? What if the earth is asking for your help? And what if you had the resources to give it? This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Picasso, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Aristotle all knew to be true. Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. What if there are no dumb questions? Or any question too large? What if you being you are the gift and the change this world requires? Is now the time? For more questions to create a change in your world, sign up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. My gift to you, beingyouclass.com.
You're listening to Messy Adventures in Living with Petrina Fava. To participate in today's show, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also ask questions or comment by email by sending to Petrina at petrinafava.com. Now, here's Petrina with more Messy Adventures.
Welcome back to Messy Adventures in Living. Our topic for today has been how to set unreasonable goals. We're looking at all the bullshit we've bought about being reasonable and setting goals and having a plan and never straying off course, and all the places where that's limiting us, especially if you're the kind of person that is really aware of energy and gets excited about what you know is possible, and you know, are you actually really aware of the future? Like, are you aware of a creation and how it is going to show up in the future? Can you actually perceive it? And are you trying to fit into the box that this reality tells us is the right way to achieve goals, and then finding yourself frustrated, and then finding yourself judging yourself as just a dreamer, when really you just function differently? And how can you use this reality, how can you use the systems of this reality to join with your amazing capacity to create from energy and to create with awareness, and have the most incredible magic show up that way? So here's some quick tips. Just to recap what we talked about setting some unreasonable goals. Ask questions. Instead of drawing a line, instead of drawing a path to your goal, ask some questions. What's it going to take for this to show up? Who do I have to talk to? Who do I have to connect with? Who can I talk to about this? Who has information about this that I can tap into? Who can I ask? Where can I go? What can I look for? Tap into the energy of what it is you would like to create, and then choose based on what matches that energy. Be willing to stray off course. And, what if straying off course is not straying off course? What if straying off course is actually following the energy of what you know is possible, and following the energy and finding what matches, right? There's not an either or. You can actually function the way you function energetically and learn to follow the energy and learn to find things that match the energy of what you want to create, and still have a system in place. So what system can I put in place here that would allow me to have this faster, that would allow me to create this at the speed of space that I know is possible? What system can I put in place here? A system is changeable. It's different than a structure. Be willing to change. Have a system in place that is always changeable as you choose. Remember that choice creates awareness, so as you choose, you can choose something different. And follow the energy to your creation. Be willing to have your creation show up in a way that you never thought was possible. And be willing for your creation to be even greater than what you are currently aware of, or that you currently are imagining it to be. The thing with setting a plan is that it's a limitation. It's a closed door. It's only what you have thought of in the beginning, and you're closing it. What if it could grow into something even greater? Here's another really important one. Shut up. Someone once told me, never let the trolls know your goals. Or as Mr. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, so eloquently says it, just shut up. What happens when you start telling people about your dreams and they don't believe them, or they judge you, or they want to crush you? What happens? How much judgment are you letting in by talking about everything that you know is possible? So thanks for being here, guys. How can you set some unreasonable goals today? We are going to be talking next week to the awesome Cassie Summers and Sarah Grandinetti about beauty. I am beauty. Please don't miss it. It's going to be a great live show next week right here on Messy Adventures in Living, talking about I am beauty. And in the meantime, go out there and set some unreasonable goals See you next
Thanks
week.
for playing with us
Goodbye.
on Messy Adventures in
Thanks
Living.
for playing.
Petrina Fava will return next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific on Inspired Choices Network. We'd love to have you join us again. Until next time, have fun creating your phenomenal life, mess and all.